The morning sun filtered through the pines and lawn. Golden shafts as Elias Reed eased through the underbrush, camera in hand. He was alone in this vast wilderness, just him and the forest he loved. And for a moment the world felt still and infinite. Dew sparkled on ferns, and the air smelled of moist earth. A lone hawk called to its mate, echoing over distant ridges. Elias paused, heart stilling at the familiar lull, the endless privacy of nature embracing him like an old friend. After years tucked away in this remote forest, Elias had learned to read the woods like a book. He moved quietly, barely bending a branch, stepping carefully between shafts of early light. He raised his camera to frame a squirrel perched on a mossy root, snapping an image of its curious face. The shutter clicked, gentle but sharp, and the creature jerked, then scampered off without a trace of fear. Elias smiled. Even the wildlife seemed at ease with him, and for a moment he let himself enjoy this small, precious calm. A strange quiet descended as Elias ventured deeper. He realized there were too few birdsong and too many empty branches. No rustle of deer in the brush, no chirp of blue jay overhead. The forest felt hollow and waiting. He tightened his grip on his camera and scanned the trees. Experience had taught him that nature rarely fell silent without reason. A knot of unease twisted in his gut. It was unsettling, feeling it too late, like a warning he hadn't heeded soon enough. He should not be cold yet, not before noon. He tugged at his jacket, confused by a shiver that ran down his spine. Light clouds gathered on the horizon, gray curtains drawing over an unhappy sky. A sudden gust of warm wind blew dust in a rush past him, carrying a faint spark of burning wood. Elias's brow furrowed as his heart began racing. Something's wrong, he whispered to himself, voice low and tight as if the woods themselves were listening. The next moment, a dull roar shook the air. Ahead, along the ridge, he saw it, a line of black smoke billowing upward from the trees. Elias staggered, dropping his camera as the sweet calm of morning cracked into panic. A thin ribbon of smoke had become a roaring inferno in seconds, flame and shadow twisting around the trunk of a tall pine. He stumbled back, coughing as heat licked his face and ash began to fall like white snow around him. Please like and subscribe. Behind him, high in a scorched cedar, a murder of crows burst into the air with a sharp, ragged cry. They scattered in a flurry of black wings, an ominous procession fleeing the blaze. The sight confirmed Elias's fear. Even the forest's watchful birds had no safe place tonight. Flames, vast and undulating, now leapt up the trunks like living tendrils devouring everything in their path. The blaze spread swiftly, the roar of wood crackling louder with every moment. The sky glowed an angry orange beyond the treetops. Panic surged through Elias's veins as he sprinted downhill, splashing through muddy ferns. His lungs filled with choking smoke and the acrid tang of charred pine. He covered his mouth with the hem of his shirt and ran blind, guided only by instinct. Keep moving, he choked, adrenaline flaring. Branches slashed at his arms, throwing off sparks that seared into his skin. The trail back to his cabin was cut off by an enormous wall of fire, higher than the trees themselves. Elias darted sideways, scrambling up a scorched bank as embers hissed underfoot. The wind howled through the clearing, as if urging him on. For a wildlife photographer used to shaping moments behind a lens, this was no scene to capture in safety. It was pure survival. A sharp cry tore through the inferno's roar. Elias halted in mid-stride, heart pounding. Ahead of him, just beyond the blaze, he saw movement. A limping form emerged, an animal, small and in agony. The firelight caught on fur darkened with ash and patches of raw, charred skin. The creature froze at a fallen log, mouth opening in a terrified pant. The dog's eyes were wide and pleading when they locked with Elias's. It was too weak to bark. It just stared as flames flickered in its eyes, filled with pain and an odd, desperate trust that twisted Elias's gut. In that instant, something inside him froze. He couldn't leave this creature here to die alone. Not in this hell. Elias moved before he even realized it, flinging aside a low branch spitting embers. The heat blasted at his chest like a furnace door. Sweat spattered down his back. But he had to reach the dog. "Hang on, buddy," Elias called through ragged breaths, though doubt gnawed at his throat. The dog's head swayed as it pantingly watched him, trembling. When Elias was only a few feet away, he scooped the animal up in his arms. The dog let out a soft whimper and crumpled almost limp against Elias's chest. Its fur was singed and smelling of smoke. But in that moment, Elias saw more than fear in its gaze, an understanding and intelligence that went beyond instinct. "You're safe now," Elias soothed, voice raw. The dog's eyes fluttered and then fixed steadily on him. In that gaze there was something uncanny, an awareness, a recognition that they were not alone in this. The dog's muzzle nuzzled his shoulder, and something warm and fragile bloomed in Elias's chest. He carried Ember as he limped forward, forcing his own panicked breath to slow. Every step was agony. The ground was uneven and hot, dead brush crackling under his feet like brittle bones. Ash rained down, covering Elias's hair and face in soot. When his legs burned and threatened to give out, he willed himself onward, gripping the dog closer. At last he found a boulder on a nearby slope, where the flames flickered lower. Elias gently lowered Ember down. The pup whimpered softly, but did not struggle. Elias pulled a scrap of cloth from his pack and wrapped it loosely around the dog's wounded leg, mopping away crimson trickles. When he lifted the makeshift bandage, the sight of pink muscle under torn hide made him flinch, but he pressed firmly to stem the bleeding. Ember whined softly, but did not move her leg. Her breathing grew steadier. He wiped sweat and soot from his forehead. His clothes were soaked and hanging heavy. His arms felt numb. Pain throbbed in his side where a fallen branch had grazed him. He should have run faster, he berated himself, but guilt was a luxury now. Right now, they were alive, and the forest around them was a grave. Elias looked down at Ember, blinking back tears. "I think I'll call you Ember," he said gently, using the first name that came to mind. "Because that fire almost took you." The dog's ears perked as if she understood the meaning of the name. All around them, the wildfire continued its havoc. The world was filled with the cries of terrified creatures. A line of deer bounded through the smoke, their wide eyes reflecting orange and black. A fox streaked by, panic in every leap as the flames chased it onward. Overhead, a murder of crows still circled in the darkening sky, their cries eerily human-like. One doe slowed at the edge of the firelit clearing. It held Elias's gaze for a long moment, as if asking who would survive. Then it bounded off into the trees beyond the flames. Nightfall crept in far too swiftly as Elias and Ember climbed toward a ridge, hoping to find a creek. The sky above their heads swirled with smoke, and the sun was reduced to a distant red spot. Elias's muscles screamed under the burden of holding the dog, and he staggered, taking one shuddering step at a time. Finally, he found a shelf of granite jutting from the hillside and collapsed onto it. Ember curled beside him, her body still hot to the touch, but her breathing a bit calmer. The echo of the raging forest around them was distant now, swallowed by the night. In the clearing there was only the crackle of dying embers, and the soft whine from Ember as she pressed into Elias's side. Elias fumbled for his flint. Sparks were hard to coax in this smoky air, but with trembling hands he coaxed a tiny blaze in a circle of blackened sticks no bigger than a match's flame. It gave them a bit of warmth. Ember laid her muzzle against his leg, eyes glowing in the flickering light. A silence unlike any he had known descended then. The forest seemed to have exhaled and now held its breath. The only living thing in this ruined landscape was there beside him, trusting him. Elias placed a gentle hand on Ember's head, stroking the soot from her ears. "You're safe for tonight," he thought. Only the two of them, in the black of smoke and ash. He felt something in his chest, a fragile, foolish thing, but there it was. Relief, perhaps even hope. He hadn't allowed himself hope in a long time, but now Ember's presence demanded it. Elias let his head rest back on the rock and closed his eyes. He pictured campfires from his past, remembered laughter and voices long silent. He brushed a tear from his cheek. This small dog had sparked something in him he thought was dead. "Just you and me," he whispered into the night, naming the bond that had formed in the wildfire. "We'll make it out of here." In the quiet that followed, for the first time in hours, he felt sure of that promise. For a moment, absolute silence reigned. Then, almost imperceptibly, Ember's body stiffened. Her ears prickled forward. Elias snapped awake just as the dog's low growl rumbled from her throat. Ember stared into the darkness beyond the firelight, every muscle in her tense frame rigid. Elias sat up, heart pounding again. The fire's glow cast long shadows, but it was the black void beyond that drew his eyes, the places where the flames did not reach. Something moved out there, something not fleeing with the rest. He raised a hand to calm Ember, though there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. "It's okay," he murmured, voice steady despite the fear rising in him. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it. Together." Even as he spoke, Elias felt the truth in her vigilance. Ember's instincts told her something was watching them from the unlit woods. Night deepened around them, thick and watchful. Elias felt utterly alone except for the pup at his side. The scorched wilderness stretched silent and unknowable beyond the circle of dying embers. They were stranded, but together. Ember, wise and wary, seemed to know that their story was only beginning. He took a deep breath. Whatever had brought Ember into his life was far from finished. The night closed in around them, but Elias allowed himself one small comfort. He and Ember would face whatever came next, together. The forest remained eerily quiet, but Elias knew this calm was only the beginning of a darker journey. Ultimately, he realized the darkness waiting in the woods was not so empty as it seemed. But as long as Ember was by his side, Elias wasn't afraid to face it. Their journey had started with fire. It would lead them into the unknown. And whatever lay ahead, they would meet it side by side. Subscribe, like, and comment part 2 for the second part.